Hello, Denver region. My name is Tina Quigley, and even though you are meeting me for the very first time, I have been following you and fangirling you for almost about 30 years now. I started my career as a planner at McCarran International Airport at the exact same time that you were in the planning phase of your new Denver International Airport, which was the nation's very first major international airport to be built in over 20 years. So it was absolutely a huge project. Been following you ever since then. I spent 15 years at the airport and eventually transitioned over to surface transportation to the RTC, the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada, which is similar to RTD, but then also a little bit bigger in scope in that the RTC in Las Vegas is not only the public transit agency, but we're also the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or in your world, it's Dr. Cog, although we work much smaller than your Dr. Cog. Dr. Cog is a beautiful agency with just access to so much data. We're also the Traffic Operations Center, Traffic Management Center, meaning that anything having to do with traffic and technology, so traffic signalization, dynamic message signs, ramp metering cameras, those were all under our auspice as well, under one centralized management center. And then we were also the roadway planning and funding agency, meaning that any revenues having to do with roadways flowed through the RTC. And then we worked with the cities and the county and the different jurisdictions to prioritize that funding, to collaboratively work to prioritize that funding. And then those entities would construct each one of those projects. I want to share with you some of the things that I was very proud of as part of my career at the RTC, and I did retire last year as the CEO. In the public transit realm, we ranked regularly, consistently for many years as the nation's most efficient system under certain metrics, in particular fare box recovery ratio, which means the cost for each trip of travel and the ratio of recovery we got from the fare box. Under the MPO section, very honored in that the cities and county had collaboratively done a regional plan, a federally recognized regional plan through a grant. And once it was done, it needed to be housed and executed by an agency, and they chose the RTC. They trusted us to be the agency to execute the projects within that study. The traffic management and operations area, I was very proud. Safety was a big deal for us. And very proud that we partnered with a small technology firm out of Israel to work on a method, a platform for predicting where the next accident or incident was going to occur based on all kinds of data, historical data, current conditions data. And in doing so, we reduced the number of accidents during our test period by 17%. Very proud of that. And under the roadway and planning and funding agency, we were able to pass a ballot question that tied motor vehicle fuel tax to inflation. And that was no easy feat. We had a certain number of years to take we were a very small, low profile agency. People just thought we were the bus agency. We had to take our brand and we had to grow it. We had to grow it so that people understood who we are and what we did. And we had to prove to them that we could execute projects, bring them to completion. And we were rewarded by a successful ballot question. So with that, that's a little bit about me. And now what I want to do is talk about you. I want to talk about the RTD. I want to talk about the Denver region, because in these past couple of weeks, I've been spending a lot of time, once I knew I was a finalist for the RTD CEO position, really wanted to try to understand what the issues were in the region. Because I wouldn't be able to give this presentation, or I wouldn't be able to give you ideas or share it without really understanding you. So I reached out to lots of different people, lots of leaders, lots of really smart people, the advocates, vendors, contractors, chamber, economic development groups, the state, the local cities, people who have some nexus of understanding so that I could learn from them. So I'm going to share some of that with you. I came up with the title. I'm going to launch into the presentation. I started off with this title, Driving Change and Delivering Results. You're very strong. And after a while, it's a lot of words. I don't really know what it means. So just this morning, as I was going through the presentation, I decided to change it to reflect more of who I really am. And you will learn this about me, Denver, if I'm honored to be your CEO. I'm competitive and I like to win. Not in a selfish way, but as a community, as a region, as a team, there's nothing more fulfilling than winning. Okay, so I changed the title. It is not Driving Change and Delivering Results. It is now called Winning. And I got to tell you, Denver has a winning history. Just drawing from some inspiration from history, way back 150 years ago, you were a small mining community, but you understood, your forefathers understood that transportation was not only the great equalizer, it was the great accelerator as it related to economic development. And so it was, they worked really hard, wanted to be the stop along the transcontinental railway, but Cheyenne won instead. But Denver was not deterred. Denver and its 4,800 residents, or only 4,800 residents, pulled together $1 million and dedicated their own time and labor to build a spur out of Cheyenne. And that was Denver's first railroad, the Denver Pacific Railway. And in doing so, it really cemented, and history bucks will tell you, it cemented the town's status as the metropolis of the West. And that winning formula, that formula of tenacity, teamwork, transportation together have been Denver's winning formula for economic growth and development. And it's worked out well. In fact, if you were to take a look at the map of the United States, there's absolutely nothing around Denver. There's no reason that Denver should exist except for that winning formula. You'll see it circled there. That constellation is the Denver region. And you're wondering, hey, so whatever happened to Cheyenne, by the way? Well, there you go. There's Cheyenne. So to me, Denver, you are winning. And there's the story about how the FTA had $1 billion pot that was going to be spread out amongst several different cities for the sake of light rail. And in the end, as they went through the vetting process, they decided there was only one city that truly had the collaboration and the dedication and the ability to execute a large-scale light rail project. So Denver, you ended up with the full $1 billion. Call that winning. But everybody is in the transit industry right now. Everybody's going through a period of crisis, not only due to COVID, but we were dealing with the issues even prior to COVID. Denver does have some exacerbated crisis conditions as well. In fact, recently listened to the governor in his opening comments for the RTD Accountability Committee, which was held last week. Our RTD needs a turnaround, not a Band-Aid. And also our own chair of the RTD, Angie Malpietti, said, people won't thrive here if we don't have a good transit system. So definitely a call to action, a period in time where Denver or RTD needs to confront the crisis. As I talked to people and did the reading, I learned that this crisis falls into 3 different categories, and they're all overlapping, which is why I show them as overlapping circles. There's crises in the financial arena, there are crises in the operational arena, and then the really big one that I've heard consistently was in the community trust genre. So the good news is that this governor's newly created accountability committee, I think, will be a partner with RTD in addressing each one of the issues that we'll unpack here in a minute in those bubbles. And that's going to make for a very, very strong call to action as they come up with recommendations, a strong and weighty call to action and outlining what we need to do. So unpacking the financial conditions or financial challenges, sales tax volatility, transit industry trends, which were occurring even before COVID. The fast tracks is something that I hear regularly about, and sorry, I have to change my screen here. Fast tracks, a very, very big dish. It didn't matter who you talk to, very consistent messaging regarding fast tracks and those unkept promises. The administrative overhead is something that people are concerned about, and in the end, concerned that we are headed towards a budgetary fiscal cliff. In operations, I think everybody is well aware of the fact that labor retention has been an issue, which has led to service cuts, which has led to low efficiency ratios, degraded customer service, and of course, on top of everything else that we've got, now we have the COVID issue to deal with. And cleanliness is important. Cleanliness and sanitary conditions is also very expensive as well. The big one being community trust. This is one that is going to be a priority for your next CEO. Comments that I heard were consistently, no matter didn't seem to matter who you talked to, was RTD has become the agency of no, that there is a lack of transparency, delays and cost overruns are chronic, the unkept promises associated with fast tracks, and that also it's become a very siloed agency. So in developing a framework or thoughts for winning forward, as we'll say, as opposed to moving forward, took this quote from Mayor Hancock last week, or he was speaking at the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce's annual State of the City. And I think the best quote that we heard was, "Our goal is to bounce back better than before, but it's going to take all of us." So taking that to heart and thinking if I was the next CEO, how would I prepare for this job? Number one, even before day one, even before wearing an RTD badge, the things that would need to be done is, one is to go out and ride the system. Listen, observe, chat with riders, just really immerse myself in that RTD service. Of course, meet with each RTD member even prior to day one, connect with the RTD executive team and also union leadership. I think union leadership is going to be very important as part of the partnership in turning RTD around. Reaching out to Dr. Cog, the Metro Chamber, Metro Mayor's Caucus, and the RTD Accountability. These are groups that have got a strong interest in seeing RTD be a success, recognizing that winning formula of tenacity, teamwork, transportation. And the other thing that I would do, and I have done this in my previous jobs as well, is identify a tribe of mentors. And by that, I mean, this is an informal kitchen cabinet or informal advisors, 4 to 5 experts from external organizations who have a strong understanding of Denver's history, that have that political savvy, that know where the quicksand is, know where the sensitivities are, and a strong sense of strategic planning and execution. So using that team to help, as a brand new CEO who's coming in from outside of the area, develop a plan that is right for the community. That would be prior to day one. The CEO's first 90 days, you're gonna see a theme here. It would be, those 90 days will go fast. Most important will be to listen to the community, and then also to implement the recommendations of the internal task force. This is a task force that the interim CEO, Paul Ballard, has been leading. And Paul has had the luxury and been very fortunate to see RTD as an outsider, but working inside, and to be able to identify areas where there's opportunity for efficiency. So working with him and the RTD board to implement some of those recommendations. Listening to the internal team during those first 90 days, and in doing so, learning and evaluating those organizational structures, the culture, the talent, the processes, which is also a code, a nice way of saying there might be some opportunities probably for right-sizing the organization and figuring out where our strengths are, especially as a team as I come in. Listening to those partner agencies, the agencies that need RTD and that RTD needs in order to be successful. And the end of the first 90 days to provide a summary of observations and goals to the board. Over the next couple years, you know, I had the opportunity to talk to a major stakeholder in the Denver region yesterday, and I'm so excited about some of the ideas that I've come up with, especially as it relates to fast tracks and talking with the community. And he listened and he was very kind in saying, hey, you know what? Before you get ahead of yourself, before RTD can do, or the new CEO can do anything, or really be seen as presenting valid concepts and options and ideas, you're going to have to gain the community's trust. RTD is at an all-time low as it relates to community trust. So until we can start to turn around that trust, until the CEO in that role is somebody that the community can believe in, you really just need to focus on getting to know us and listening to us. So I would say, number one, over the next couple of years, gain the community's trust, which is, and tools for doing that would be to implement the recommendations from the Accountability Committee, to engage the cities and counties in systems planning goals. What are we working for in each region in terms of, we want more coverage or do we want more frequency? And what percentage, what ratio of coverage versus frequency do we want to set as our goals. Creating a transparency dashboard, which would mean identifying those metrics that the community wants RTD to be measured on and reporting out regularly on. They might be efficiencies, they might be staffing levels, whatever it is, revenues, financial, operational. Create these measurements and then transparently report them in a dashboard to the community. A full agency overview, which might require hiring an external consultant to come in, identifying where we can optimize efficiency, developing options to address the fast tracks program, again, after we have only after we have really worked with the community and started to gain their trust. And then my most important task, if I was the CEO, would be to build a strong and inspired executive team, an executive team that believes that RTD has the ability to be not only the best agency in the Denver region, but also, I'm very competitive. So I would want to work towards being the best agency and recognized as that nationally. So the 5-year vision, what does that look like? The RTD brand is known nationally for employee engagement, community partnerships, and an equitable, accessible, reliable mobility system. And in the end, a partner that the community is proud of. So that is my presentation, Denver region. I wish you the best of luck and that you continue winning in whatever way that you choose to move forward. You've done it before and you will do it again. Thank you.